What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to this very new baby channel that's brand new. FilmFanatic back here with another video. So if you like these videos, pretty much what this channel is going to be about, it's just going to be, I'm a film fanatic, film lover. I just love movies, love film, always have. I'm 38 and I've been, in love with film and movies ever since I first watched RoboCop and Rocky IV when I was 7 years old, just watching those on repeat on my VHS every day in my living room. So yeah, if you just want to, I know there's a lot of, YouTubers out there that do this kind of thing. They just talk about movies and films that they love. But yeah, this is something I love doing. So I'm not in this for the money or the likes or the popularity or anything like that. I just feel like, when you're 38, in your mid-30s, late 30s, and you're an adult, you really don't have many friends. It's hard to find friends you share common interests with that you can see on a regular basis that you want to talk about certain things about. And this is kind of my out for that. And you guys are along for the ride. So who's going to be the first subscriber? If you want to go and subscribe to this channel, I'll be dropping videos like this normally. It's pretty much just me, a normal guy, normal film lover like you guys, talking about movies and films that he loves, critiques, reviews. So yeah, just subscribe and there'll be more film related, movie related videos like this coming. So yeah, welcome to my brand new channel. It's FilmFanatic here. So what am I talking about today? So Stanley Kubrick. So when we think about great directors, we often think of the names that come to mind are, of course, the Quentin Tarantino, Alfred Hitchcock, Christopher Nolan, Oliver Stone, Martin Scorsese. Phenomenal directors, obviously. We all love them. Spike Lee even. He has some hit or misses, but even Spike Lee's an amazing director. 25th Hour, by the way, kind of digress here. It's probably one of my favorite movies of all time. Very highly, criminally underrated Spike Lee movie. It's his best movie. It has Edward Norton in it. Check it out. Has one of the greatest rant scenes that I've ever seen in film history. Anyway, getting back to the topic on point. But one director, I was thinking about this the other day. I have a lot of like shower or driving thoughts while I'm thinking about movies and films and this kind of thing from time to time. And really, it really struck me. I've always kind of go back in my head, back and forth over the years. Who is the greatest director of all time? Sure, a case can be made for Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino, all phenomenal directors, even Oliver Stone. But really, when I think about it, Stanley Kubrick to me, and it's not even close in my opinion, I think Stanley Kubrick is just the greatest director of all time. I don't think anyone will match, what he's achieved. And I know this is kind of cliche because all film lovers or film snobs, so to speak, are going to point to Stanley Kubrick as a great director. But one thing I think that gets overlooked on why he was such a good director, for a couple reasons. You have The Shining, A Clockwork Orange, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Eyes Wide Shut, and Full Metal Jacket. And think about those movies. Those movies are bona fide 10 out of 10 flawless masterpieces. Eyes Wide Shut, some people were split on that when it came out, but over time it's gotten a lot more appreciation. And even that one I love. These are 5 masterpiece movies. Now, what director can you point to in the history not only has made 5 masterpieces of film, but 5 masterpieces of film all in completely unrelated genres to each other? Think about that for a minute. When you think of Martin Scorsese, I love Scorsese. Probably my second or third favorite director. So this isn't me dissing the other directors whatsoever. They are all truly amazing. But when you think about Martin Scorsese, he has a lot of phenomenal movies, of phenomenal masterpieces, but they're all kind of the same type of movie. I don't want to say that. You can make an argument that a lot of people, I think Casino is an absolute masterpiece. I love it, but a lot of people say it's just Goodfellas set in Las Vegas. But I disagree. I love Casino. I absolutely love Casino. But when you think about Goodfellas, Casino, Taxi Driver, Mean Streets, and then you think of Raging Bull, it's a little bit different, but still had kind of the same mob elements to it. Still had featured Robert De Niro. A lot of his movies are very much similar, and he kind of stays in his comfort zone of that kind of gritty street mob movie type gangster flick with a lot of violence, tells a great story, a lot of narration. The Departed, even as a phenomenal masterpiece that was, it still kind of stays within that kind of same crime cop genre type of deal. It's in that kind of same crime drama genre. All phenomenal movies. Scorsese's he's a goat. What can I say? I'm not dissing Scorsese. He's still one of my favorites. I've seen his movies a million times. And then you think of Quentin Tarantino, very similar, phenomenal director. One of the greats, obviously. He needs he doesn't need me to say that. Everyone knows he's a phenomenal director. But again, all of his movies are kind of follow the same kind of pattern. Kind of gritty, violent, true crime kind of pattern. Very conversational, very narrative based, but they all kind of stay within that realm. Oliver Stone's a little bit different in that regard. His movies kind of do very wildly. You had Natural Born Killers to Wall Street to Platoon, all very, he's a lot more akin to Stanley Kubrick in that regard. So what am I getting at? If you look at Stanley Kubrick's 5 masterpieces, first of all, what director can make 10 out of 10 masterpieces that will go down as the greatest films in history like those 5? But look how different these films are from one another. You have The Shining, which there's a lot of like abusive dad, neglectful dad undertones, anger issue undertones to that story, but it's a standard haunted hotel horror movie. Phenomenal movie, probably the greatest horror movie of all time in my opinion. But then you have 2001: A Space Odyssey. Space exploration, exploring the perils of technology and where the world was headed and how accurate it was in a lot of respects. But they had to do with all like space exploration, technology, computer technology at the time. Completely unrelated to The Shining. I mean, they couldn't be further apart type of genres. And then you go to Full Metal Jacket. We went from space, we went from a haunted hotel to with a bad, abusive, murdering dad, to now Full Metal Jacket about Vietnam War and the perils of war on young men. And then Eyes Wide Shut, which explores, a tumultuous marriage that's on shaky ground, where the moral of the story is a lot of times the grass just isn't greener on the other side when it comes to your love life. But it tells it in such a way where it has this build up of dread to it. And finally, Clockwork Orange, where it's about youth, corruption of youth, about the perils of like the death penalty, of kind of big government with their way of imprisoning youth and how they handle the punishment penal system for youths that act out. And it goes from one extreme to another of how you can have too much rehabilitation is a bad thing, but too little is also a bad thing. But think about that: 5 masterpieces. In 5 different films that couldn't be so much different from one another. That is a huge accomplishment. I mean, you have Vietnam War, computer technology, haunted hotel, the perils of a corrupted youth and a system that does them wrong, and a story like Eyes Wide Shut, where it's about a marriage on shaky ground where they want to explore and bring back excitement to their life. Honestly, it sounds like a rom-com almost, but it's a masterpiece. I mean, these movies are so equally good and equally focused in their storytelling that, what director? We're never going to see another director like Kubrick. He just transcended so many genres. He didn't care about critics. At the time, The Shining even got bad reviews, believe it or not. It's probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest horror movie of all time. But that's why, in my opinion, I finally reached a conclusion, and there's kind of closure in my mind of who the best director is. And as much as I love Tarantino, I love Scorsese, I love Oliver Stone, I even love Christopher Nolan, Stanley Kubrick is just untouched. And it's not only that he had 5 masterpieces in totally different genres that couldn't be further apart from each other in terms of story, setting, atmosphere, the type of story he's telling, but they're all so good and well thought out. And the writing, it's like I talked about this in my Blonde movie review on my previous video, is his story, he tells stories without telling a story. He immerses you in these worlds, even almost claustrophobically so. Like The Shining, you're in that hotel, like you have this feeling of dread the whole time you're watching The Shining. 2001, you feel that isolation of being in space, like you feel like the walls closing in on you. At Clockwork Orange, that opening scene right from the start where it shows a close-up of Alex's face and they're in that milk bar and it zooms out and he's narrating and you see the white mannequin, naked women mannequin things, and they're drinking their milk. And Stanley Kubrick is just phenomenal, and he never had a decline in his movies. He never got complacent. Each movie was equally as good as his previous one. They were all 10 out of 10s. Eyes Wide Shut, if someone had, I hate to even say what's the weakest movie in his whole lineup. A gun to my head, and I even hate to answer this question because they're all such masterpieces. How do you even answer that? But if someone said there's a gun to your head right now, you got to pick a weak Stanley Kubrick film, which one's going to be the weakest link? I'm going to say it's a toss-up between, I hate to say this, it pains me, but Eyes Wide Shut or Full Metal Jacket. I know. But when you think about it, if I was going on a deserted island and I can only pick 3 Stanley Kubricks to take with me, 3 Stanley Kubrick movies to take with me, it'd have to be 2001, The Shining, and A Clockwork Orange. Full Metal Jacket and Eyes Wide Shut, as masterful and amazing as they are, I absolutely love them, but they're not like, I could live without them. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I'm saying when it's pitted up again, if I'm choosing between Clockwork Orange, 2001, The Shining versus Full Metal Jacket and Eyes Wide Shut, I'm sorry, I've got to take the former 3, but they're still 10 out of 10 movies. That's what I'm saying. It's impossible to say his weakest movie because he has no weak movies. And it's just, he's really a transcendent director, and it really boils down to, as much as Tarantino, Scorsese, and Oliver Stone and Christopher Nolan have my heart, it's got to be Stanley Kubrick, best director of all time in my opinion, and no one will ever come close to matching him.